calculated by some kind of.
Okay, we're live.
We're live. We're live. Okay.
Applied ML weekly team meeting. But Michał and Alexander, please continue what you were discussing.
It was a discussion about the GraphQL API because we've got 2 bugs right now, so I added some workarounds so we can skip those 2 issues that I created if it's not. Yeah, I mean, if we cannot solve them right now.
Well, we should fix them.
Yeah, of course.
At least that's what I think. I think all fields are optional. Like all fields have null. Almost, sorry, not optional. Almost all fields there have a null, false, which means that not all of them are optional. This particular one has null true, so it is optional. But I'm not sure why is that the case. I mean, I think we should store the merged at timestamp in the database, but we don't.
I thought that that's a field inside the database.
That's not backed by a database column. It's calculated from something, and I'm not sure how exactly. It has a complexity of 5, which is quite huge.
Okay.
Alexander, you want to jump into item number 2? The discussing options to compare unreview and reviewer roulette. Why don't you walk us through that?
So yeah, I have created an issue. No, sorry, it's not me. I mean, I added some comments about how we can compare unreview and review roulette. So we have 2 options. The first one is to use some metrics like mean reciprocal rank and top K. Right now, unreview supports these 2 metrics out of box. So we can, I mean, when we train the model, finally we get these metrics. The main problem that's I don't know. So maybe a review roulette doesn't support these metrics. I mean, doesn't support any metrics. So it means that we need to implement them. But to implement them, we need to generate, we need to extract the data set that is supported by a review roulette. So it's hard to predict how many times we need to do that. Another option is to integrate unreview as reviewer roulette and to make recommendations via comments, similar to what the Stan model does right now. So I saw that Stan sent me a link with how we can do that through the Danger bot or something like that. So there are some Danger files, so I need to read more about that. But I think, as I understood, that's the easiest way right now. So it means that we integrate unreview and we make recommendations via comments. And finally, we can track the choice of each developer and compare the recommendations of unreview and review roulette. So another way how we can calculate the same mean reciprocal rank and the top K accuracy.
I like that approach. And I think we originally wrote it as compare with reviewer roulette, but that was as a way of measuring how effective unreview is at recommending reviewers and maintainers. But that's not the only way. So we do want to dog food our own solutions. So we want to use, meaning we want to use our own things that we're going to be recommending or making available to customers. We want to use it ourselves. But that doesn't mean we need to do that in milestone 1. So I think what you propose, Alexander, I think it was you stated 2 options. That was option 2 is just looking at how look at how unreview is working, and then in milestone 1, and then milestone 2 comparing against reviewer roulette, because we do want to dog food it and start using it ourselves.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, because we need to wait to collect enough data to process and to get some results if we choose the second option. So that's why, yeah, it would be nice to, no, it's not nice. We have to integrate it in the first milestone, but we can collect those metrics in the second milestone. Because anyway, in the second milestone, we need to integrate some other features, and we have already created an issue, like time zones, availability, all these things.
Taylor, you have a comment, looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say nothing says we have to turn review roulette off. We could let both run, let them both post comments and see what people choose. We need a feedback mechanism into the algorithm anyway. We already do this today with Tanuki Stan with the issue labeler. Like if people want to change the labels, we have an ML wrong label that people can apply, which is sort of a feedback signal to us. So I think there's lots of options here. I agree we don't have to just focus on directly comparing to review roulette.
Sean, looks like you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I just added something there. So I guess this is a question for you, Alexander. Maybe we don't have the data in our database or whatever already, but you know, would it be possible to kind of look backwards and extract you know, what roulette decided and then kind of work with that data, or are we missing key data?
Yeah, that's also a question for me because we need data to test review roulette. We need some past commits. We need to understand who was available at some time in the past. So I'm not sure that we have this kind of data right now. Because, okay, at this time, we know a pool of reviewers who can be assigned. But for example, 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure that we track this information somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the roulette does it. I mean, we would have the PTO. We have a PTO database. It might be a bit hard to match up the database, the data, but we can get reports out of PTO Ninja. Yeah, just wondering if there's some way that we can do this without having to wait for some cycles to go through.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think that it would be nice to have two options.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Yep.
the first and the second one, because I'm pretty sure that, and I found, because there can be some cases when review roulette or unreview recommends someone, developer chooses another person, but we know that the recommendations of review roulette or unreview, they were correct. And we need to understand why the developer chose another person to make a review. So that's why we need two options. The first option we test on some past data, on some past commits. Another option we integrate, we collect statistics, and we improve the model.
Yeah, we might also have that data in the data warehouse. I don't know what's actually in there. But just before we leave this point, to answer your question also, Alexander, I think many times developers, particularly when it's the end of the cycle, they're going to pick the reviewer they know is going to help them get it through fast, right? Might be someone in their own group, for example.
Yeah, that's why maybe we need to change this, let's say, aspect, because maybe we need to provide some kind of statistics to show why this person should be selected. Because as I said at the beginning, we need to, our recommendations, they should be understandable.
Yeah.
Developers, they should understand why the person is selected.
We can have many ways of comparing both of those ideas, both the models and everything. But the key point is that they're both trying to solve the same problem. They're both trying to make it quicker to identify which one are the reviewers, either for with the roulette or with the unreview. How can we measure? And this is what we have to measure. This is how we should define better in the scenario. How fast is it for users to identify the correct reviewers for that? There are some metrics for that. For example, MAP@K, which is minimum average precision. Minimum average precision, for example, that could be used in this scenario. But it doesn't matter. There's always a metric for that. We need to define what we want to consider better, because we can find many different definitions of what is better, but we need to come up with one. Otherwise, we're going to stay on this forever, right?
Yeah, that's why, for example, we select metrics, for instance, at this point, but we have the base solution as review roulette, so we can compare. Do you agree?
Yeah, we need to compare, but we need to already define beforehand the on what, right?
Yeah.
How we should compare both of those.
At the beginning, unreview used mean reciprocal rank at top and top K accuracy. So, but we can improve this part as well.
I think on what key metric you are comparing is exactly the crucial point, as everyone is mentioning. So doing like maybe hundreds of MRs myself, there are conflicting metrics there. The author usually wants time to merge to be quicker. So that's why chooses based on time zone or ease of working with someone. And if you, and this is the metric in the development group, like in time to merge. But on the other side, if you want to have a metric for the quality of review, which you can measure based on the suggestions made, or I don't know, these are speculative or qualitative, subjective. In that case, or stability, which is number of reverts we are facing, you know, stuff like that, or follow-ups that can lead different results. So the way Danger Roulette is totally tries to equally divide based on people, which doesn't belong in any metric. So there's also a lot of developer discussion. Maintainers and reviewers, they wanna have an even distribution of the load among themselves. So that was raised a few weeks ago, like some people get too much. Let's say we have a perfect algorithm which always chooses the right person based on quality, let's say, or mean time to merge. Even that will not satisfy the requirements because people will want a well-balanced day. They don't want to spend the whole day because some people are going to do too much review in that case, and you want to raise other people. So, and also in the review danger, we have several levels. If you set yourself as the blue circle, you have 3 times more chance of getting a review. If you set yourself as orange, you have 3 times less chance than normal. So we have a lot of ways to tweak it, and none of them has any metric which particularly is interesting for comparing Danger Roulette with unreview. That's what I'm afraid. So.
Yeah, because I agree. It's like recommending only one person. Because for instance, if in the past history we have a case like only one person is selected, and we apply those metrics that I said, we will compare with some unbalanced recommendations in the past. Right?
Yeah, totally. Unbalanced. Yeah. And anyway, there's no target. There's no reason. As I said, the author has a different target. Maintainers usually want to have less load. They don't want to have like 14 reviews per day just when they can have 5. So a lot of different things are coming there in play. So let's define what's the right thing. I mean, what is the right metric there? Mean time to merge is one thing, quality, but how do you define it is the other thing. For example, I'm contributing a lot in different parts, so I would appear too much due to commit history, just because, you know, but it will then overload me. I might try to reduce my load by making myself unavailable or orange, which is 1/3 of normal in our Danger Roulette terms. You know, so these are all conflicting requirements.
Alpar, could quality be considered as, I mean, if an MR needs to be reverted, which thankfully we don't have a huge amount of data because it doesn't happen that often, but we do it. Would that be considered a quality measure?
I'm not sure over there. So I want to, like, on one side we have like the author wants as quick as possible and merge. And the review process has multiple goals. These are, you know, whether fundamentally the MR is doing the right thing, then you have security, then you have stability, and endless other concerns, style. Now, reviewer checks all of them, and reverting is just the stability, which is fatal, maybe something which is too bad to occur. It's like an ultimate, let's say, scenario. But we have a lot of like a follow-up MR which fixes on top of the current commit is also kind of an improvement, which can be claimed to be a deficiency of the review or the original MR. But that's how we work, because we do iterations on the other side. Okay. And I'm not telling anything. I just want to say that there are
No, no, it's all food for thought for sure.
Too many.
I know we spent a lot of time on this topic, but it's a very important topic. We ready to move on to the next one, or more to say on this one?
It's me again.
I usually like. I've worked a lot with this specific of defining metrics and defining experiment and things like that. I think I can run a session later into have some exercises that help defining a little bit the goals and where to get there and which metrics we can look at. So we can either do this as sync or do sync in another time. I can schedule that for us if that's on your interest.
Thanks, Eduardo. So Alexander, you have item number 3.
That's just a quick update. So almost everything is finished. I'm actually working on the wrapper for the recommendation engine that serves gRPC requests. So I think that once I finish this task, we can integrate the recommendation model into GitLab through via comments, as I said before. And then finally, we need to update the user interface, and that's all for the first milestone.
Great. Yeah, I'm just curious how the work's coming along to change the various open source library usage. I know we talked about changing the libraries for that undesirable license, the DWTFL. I think I'm getting the acronym wrong, but and a couple others. I know we said if we need to do that milestone 2, we can, but we were also going to try to do it in milestone 1 if we could.
I kind of dropped the ball on it in favor of investigating the GraphQL issues, since they seemed a little bit more important. But if Alexander says we have a workaround, then I can go back to it easily.
Yeah, I agree. Those are more important. I think that was definitely the right decision. So I wouldn't say you dropped the ball. You prioritized well.
Okay, I prioritized it well then. If that's the appropriate word here, then sure, let's go with that one.
I just said about workarounds because I couldn't wait.
Okay, so yep, I prioritized working on the GraphQL issues, or at least determining the cause of them, so we can think of a workaround or think we can actually fix it.
Okay. Thank you, Michal. Alexander, you have number 5.
Okay, so I found that we use two ways to close to close issues. The first one, we close issue, but I saw that sometimes we move issues to the verification stage. So we add the label like verification or something like that. So which option should we select when we work? Because I see that sometimes we also forget to change the labels in the issues I found.
Well, the flow we use that we use is like you move an issue to the verification stage, and a different engineer is supposed to verify the work you have done. But I don't think that's gonna apply in many cases here, as like we have no way to actually verify anything yet at this stage. So I'm like in favor of closing the issue right away without moving it to verification, because like how we are supposed to verify this. I can take a look at the code base, and that's about it.
And Taylor, you had a thought or two on this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that all of the groups do. We have workflow labels. We call them out specifically on our Applied ML handbook page. If you need more details about that workflow, there's a whole very long product page about how we transition between all of the workflow labels. I would encourage us to use what all the other teams are doing here.
once we actually have code that customers depend on or users depend on, getting the labels right is even more important then, because we want to know, is this actually in production or not? Can customers benefit of it? But since we're in proof of concept mode, it's still important to communicate amongst ourselves, but it's less important right now. But I'm glad you asked, Alexander. Miha, number 6.
So quick update, I created an issue on GitLab to like gauge the interest in Kafka or some other like queue system adoption at GitLab. And the too long didn't read version is that we already have Google PubSub at gitlab.com and we can leverage it for our proof of concept, but whether or not should we use Kafka remains to be seen if we are interested in putting the unreview in Omnibus. Because if we put it in the Omnibus, then we definitely need a way for our on-premises customers to use it. And we either have Kafka, another Redis instance, or RabbitMQ or something else, but we have to think of something if we want to put it into Omnibus. But for GitLab.com and POC, we can definitely leverage Google PubSub we already have in place.
And especially since we're planning to only do this, at least for Applied ML so far, do most of our work in the cloud, in our cloud. It's a good solution. And I'd say I'm very impressed with the collaboration across GitLab on this issue. It's like some of the GitLab secret powers of, putting things like this in an issue and then having, I think like 20 or 30 people commented roughly across GitLab on various things. It was a great discussion. So thanks for creating the issue. Taylor, you have number 7?
Yeah, this is more of just an FYI. There's an ML working group now. I was a little surprised at how this came about, but I see this largely as we now have a lot of groups interested in where we're going with ML, and we need to get them all on the same page. And with this being, all of this work is happening at an interesting time as a company, with us focusing on a lot of performance and scalability issues. It's interesting to tack on a whole new complex piece of the product that frankly no one at the company is familiar with. So that's kind of what I see this working group being about, is trying to help share knowledge and then get everyone on the same page.
Thanks, Taylor. And Eduardo, I think you've got the last item.
Yeah, just FYI, I'll be picking up the Jupyter diff on GitLab the beginning. First, it's an old ticket that's there forever, but it's just such a core part of ML experience and data science experience. So I'll be doing that in the beginning, trying to sync with the other teams right now. But I will be also on the working group, looking at what's going on the other parts of the company. I think there's a lot of, especially that Alexander mentioned, like, and Wayne as well, the concept of the ML applied internally on the public, on the GitLab.org, and ML applied to the self-managed instances and things like that. That will be a common pattern that we're going to see everywhere. So we need to come up with some processes how to handle that specific case. And yeah, that's it for me.
And with that,